Hey y'all, welcome to part 2 of this 99 Grand Cherokee that I bought. In the first video I just kind of went over the initial issues that I knew about. It wasn't charging the battery, had some PCM issues. And in this video I'm going to show you fixing a lot of things really, doing some maintenance, just kind of going over it a little more and fixing the mechanical things that I thought were an issue for me. Some of the things, maybe somebody could have lived with, depending on especially what you're doing with the vehicle, but I'm wanting to pull my razor around a little bit with it, so I kind of want to make sure it's fairly mechanically sound, at least as much as a 25-year-old vehicle can be without spending a lot of money on it. So I'll just be showing you everything I'm doing to it. In this video, it's a lot more hands-on. The last one was a lot of just talking and showing. So hopefully this one's a little more interesting to y'all, and so just stick around and we'll get into it. Alright, well, I'm tired of using this broomstick or whatever it is to prop my hood open. These shocks are bad. Obviously, I went ahead and ordered on Amazon. Got 2 new shocks for the hood, and then these are for the rear hatch. And it looks like I just gotta thread the ends on them. So I'll have to see exactly how they mount up. These just clip in. You just get a flat head under that little spring clip, and that will release the originals. And then you pop these on. Same on both ends. It won't take but a second. Or it shouldn't. And then maybe my hood will be able to stay up, or won't have to put anything under it anymore. So if you need to hold a hatch up in a pinch, vice grips are about the easiest way. You can hold it at whatever height you want. Just set them for the rod size. Make sure they're tight enough, because they'll slide down if they're not. But then you can just lay them in the hatch or something, and you'll always be able to at least clamp that up until you get some new ones. And that's what I've done in this case. Okie doke, there's one. Alright, this is so much better. Seems like it's gonna shut okay. Brings itself back up. And you can see the rear is holding itself up. Works perfect. Alright, well, it's not raining or snowing or 8 degrees out for the moment. So I've driven this thing a little bit, and the PCM on it is acting okay. It doesn't always find idle right. Like if you are stopped at a stoplight or going through a drive-through, sometimes it wants to surge at idle or die out a little bit and then catch itself. No big deal really, but that's either PCM or it could be an idle air control valve issue, which I don't think would be a big problem, but I didn't want to dig into any of that until I swapped the PCM. It's charging correctly right now with that PCM that's on it, but I kind of tore it up pretty good getting it apart, and I don't really trust it because it did have an issue, you know, before I ever dug into it, so something's kind of off with it for sure. The heater core is bad. When you drive it, it fogs the windows up real bad, so I'm gonna have to put a heater core in it. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but you know, I guess for a $1,000 Jeep with what seems like no major mechanical issues, I can't be too mad. I did buy a used PCM. I bought it from eBay, and I paid like $196 for this thing. It's, like I said, it's used. In my research, I've found that nobody makes a new, to my knowledge, nobody makes a new PCM for these vehicles. There are some places that allegedly remanufacture them. I don't know, it seems to be the consensus that a lot of those places may just get used ones and try to fix them if they're broke, and send them, clean them up a little bit and send them back out as a reman unit. So this one I can return it for free if it doesn't work or whatever. So I thought I'd be just as well off to try just a used one versus buying one that's supposedly reman, because they're about $100 more. So I think from what I've gathered, it's kind of a crapshoot either way. You don't know for sure if you're going to get a good one the first time or not. So hopefully this is a good one. You do have to buy one that is basically VIN matched for your vehicle. The company you buy it from needs to be able to offer that service. They need to be able to flash it for your vehicle, and other than that, it just needs to be able to learn your vehicle when it goes in. I'm not sure if you actually have to do that, but I think the biggest problem is there's what they call a skim module on these, and that's basically the security system. There's a little ring around the key and a little module under the steering column, and I think all these ECUs learn that the key for the vehicle. So if you were to just get a used one that hadn't been reflashed for a new vehicle, basically you'd have to get the key and all that stuff with it, the ignition lock cylinder. That way it would still see the same key that it was used to seeing. So anyway, this one's been reflashed so that it doesn't have a current key in it, and I'm gonna disable my skim module while I'm in there because it seems to be a common failure point. It can cause some weird issues, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of it. As far as I know, I should be able to just unplug it and remove it and then install this ECM, and if this ECM never saw any of that on my vehicle, it shouldn't ever lock me out of anything. So I'm gonna get this thing swapped and we'll see how it goes. So this module with the white sticker is the skim module. This is the plug right here, and then it goes over and goes around the key lock cylinder. I don't know if I can show very well. You can see that little black piece right here. It goes over to the key cylinder, and it reads the key when you slide it in. So I'm just going to unplug it for the moment. We'll see if that PCM's working good. If it is, I may go ahead and remove it just so it doesn't accidentally get plugged back in at some point, or I may just tape up the plug so that somebody or me will remember later on that shouldn't be plugged in. So I'm just going to unplug it for now, which is just as simple as doing this. And now I'll put my new, my new used PCM in, and that shouldn't be in effect anymore. So it's just two 10mm bolts to get this out, 10mm bolt and a nut for the TCM, and then two 10mm for this bracket for the PCM. You got 3 plugs that unplug, and then down in the fender well, it's too dark to show, but there's a stud that goes through. This will come out, and it has a nut on it down in the fender well around this area. So that's really all there is to get this out. Then somebody, like I said, has had this out before. Just take those 3 bolts out, mount your new PCM to the bracket, and reinstall. Well, I decided it'd be best, so I went ahead and just removed this skim module. It literally is 1 screw and this little clip on the back side of the ignition, and that way I can't ever accidentally plug it in or something dumb. So I'll keep that handy with this old PCM if I ever need it. For now, we'll try our first test start on this new one and see if it works. Well, let's see if it runs at all. Looks like I've got some gauges moving, so that's good. No check engine light right out of the gate. I don't know why it's showing oil pressure, but maybe that'll straighten out once it's running. Oh yeah, it's idling a lot better than it was before actually. Now the no key is going to be normal with the skim deleted, but that's fine. You can actually take that bulb out. Okay, it's charging good. My fuel gauge has been flaky, and I don't know if that was the computer or the fuel gauge, or the sending unit or something itself. So I'll have to drive it some to see about that. It should be close to full, but I don't know if it should be quite that full. It's pretty optimistic right now. My mileage is still correct. Sweet. I did have a check engine light for the idle, and it may come back. Seems really good right now, so that's excellent. So before the windshield fogs up on me, we'll go for a quick drive because I really haven't showed just driving this thing. The fan's kind of humming right now, but it goes away after it revs for a second. The steering wheel is slightly out of alignment, but the Jeep seems to track straight. Like, I don't have my hand on the wheel right now, and it's, you know, it's doing pretty good. So it's really quiet, which is pretty nice. Everything, my trucks are all, you know, somewhat loud inside. So it's kind of nice to have a quiet vehicle sometimes. I guess I'm getting old. I do have a light burn out over there on the fuel gauge. It's not too big a deal. You can actually, you probably, yeah, you can kind of tell the windshield's already starting to fog up a little bit. I don't have the heat on, but it doesn't seem to matter. I think you can kind of even smell the coolant just a little bit in here, but we'll just go for a quick drive. The heater core's on the way, so that'll be next. And I've got to either put some smaller tires on it or go ahead and do a 2-inch lift, which probably might just go ahead and do a lift because they're cheap, and the more I look, I kind of like to have one. They look a lot better with a little bit of lift. But, and this may, I don't know if you'll ever see any trails or not, but if it did, it would be mild. I wouldn't be off-roading necessarily, but it just makes them look a little nicer. But we'll see about that. No engine light yet. Seems to be coming to an idle pretty good there. Like I said, it would kind of fluctuate some before. It's getting up to temperature, runs right under 210. The radio does seem to work for the most part. It doesn't always come in the best, but it has the steering wheel controls back here behind the wheel, and they work. You see that windshield is fogging up more and more. It makes it really hard to drive very much. You have to just keep wiping the wheel. It runs right along plenty good. It's quiet and smooth. Speed. It drives pretty straight. It's not perfect, but not bad. Yeah, I smell the coolant really strong, and it's just fogging up. You can't even drive it with the heat off. It just doesn't matter. It fogs up either way. But I can take my hand off the wheel for a minute, but it's not perfect, but not too bad for an old vehicle. It doesn't seem extra wore out. It's, somewhat responsive. It is solid front axle, and they're not quite as tight driving as the independent front a lot of the time. It stops pretty smooth. Surprisingly enough, the rotors don't seem to be warped up too bad, so I'll take that as a win. But it's plenty stout. It runs good. Got plenty of power for driving around. We'll see how it does if I ever hook the razor to it. But I think it'll be okay, really. Alright, well that's it for this little drive. We'll move on to the heater core after it gets in. I think pretty sure this PCU is a win so far. So unless something changes there, I think we're in good shape. Alright, started on the heater core. Got all this glove box and trim work out here. Got the trim out up top. There's bolts underneath it for the dash. Got the center console out. Be a good time to vacuum maybe when I'm going back together. And then I've got everything kind of out over here. I have to, I think, take all those connections off the fuse block. The video I showed anyway, I'm just following a guy's YouTube video that was pretty helpful. I can't remember. There's a connection or two right here, that white one. And there's plenty more left to get loose, little things, and I've not done anything under the hood yet either. But I'm only about 30 minutes in, so not too bad. I've got to drop the column And I'm not going to take the dash all the way out if I can keep from it. That guy used a ratchet strap, hung his from the roof rack. So that's what I'm planning on trying to do, because you only need the dash back enough to get the HVAC box out. And so hopefully I can just swing it back out of the way and get in there and get it out, and then get it back together without doing more than that. And then it doesn't look that bad, but there's several trim pieces. I've just been laying all the bolts with the pieces that they've come out of, and I'm hoping that was the easiest way to do it. I have those bolts on a magnetic tray in the center console there of the car, but anyway, moving along. These types of jobs are some of my least favorite. I'd rather be tore into an engine or transmission, honestly. I just don't like working on car interior stuff that good. This has not been a terrible job so far. Yet to be seen how it is going back together. There's a guy on YouTube that has excellent tutorial. He only missed a couple things that I ran into on mine. One of them was the clips on the defroster. There's a hole in each one of those, and they both clip into the dash, and I had to figure out that was holding me up and pry them loose. Mine doesn't have vacuum lines like his had, so hopefully that doesn't run me into a bunch of other issues when I start taking this box out. I did find antifreeze, you can't see it, leaking down under this floor mat, so it's for sure that the heater core's leaking. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes since that other video, and I had a 10mm nut on that stud and that stud, and that was it. I got it out. Alright, got the old one pulled out. It's just these 3 little hold downs, and got the new one slid in there. It's aluminum. Hopefully it's decent. Seemed to fit okay. I had to pull this actuator out of the way. It's just these 2 screws, and then put it right back on. And that's all there is to it, really. I'm going to try to slide this back in there. Get these 2 nuts started on the bottom, and then the bolt that in the firewall in the engine side comes through and catches right here, and that'll have the HVAC box kind of back in there. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, that part only took really probably about 10 minutes. I've got to go ahead and put those vents back in that go right here up under they go up under the floor carpet, and then I can go ahead and slide the dash back together. Alright, the dash is in. Got all my bolts tight. Got my 4 vents and everything hooked up. Little bracket right there. I vacuumed a little bit around here, so there's some stuff stuck on there that ain't gonna come off very easy, but that's okay. It gets covered up. Okie doke, I'm done. I haven't test started it yet or anything. I'll go on heck, it's midnight, but I'm gonna go on a quick drive and just make sure everything seems okay. Okay, I've been driving about 10 minutes, no foggy windows, and good heat. All my functions are working correctly, so should have the dash back in right. I got a couple burnout spots on my cluster, no big deal, but pretty happy. Well, let's scrub this thing off real quick. Well, the car wash was crazy today. I had to kind of rush a little bit. I didn't want to hold everybody up scrubbing too much. The front wheels are kind of dirty because that brush never gets in all the spots good. I'll have to sponge them sometime. They've got like rust on them from where the rotors hadn't been used in a while, and they had rust, but shined up pretty decent. It's not perfect by any means. I just wanted to get the salt spray and kind of get an initial wash on it. So since the computer swap out and the heater core, this thing's been running and driving pretty good, and I should have already did a kind of a fluid check on it on the drive line, but I hadn't, so I just rolled up under it. The transfer case and the rear end both have enough fluid in them, maybe slightly low, but they're both pretty dirty. So probably gonna go ahead and change the fluid in those. The transfer case on this one's supposed to take a special fluid, so I'll have to look into that. This is the Quadra drive, and that transfer case has its own set of clutches and pump for the all-wheel drive system, which doesn't seem to work. So I don't know how much it matters, but now that it's not working anyway, I probably could just put ATF in it and not worry about it. But I'll change it with new fluid and just see what that does, I guess. The front, I haven't checked yet. I need to check it too, but I'm going to get it up on the blocks first. And I mean, it's been running good. It does smoke after it gets warm. You slow down, like, deceleration, and come to a stop, and then when you give it gas, it'll leave a little puff. And apparently that's common on 4.7s for usually valve seals are the cause. I don't think this is rings, because you can get down on it and it doesn't smoke any when you're on the throttle hard. It's just after you've slowed down to a stop, or if you just kind of rev it sitting still, it will smoke a little bit. But actually it'll puff a little. So I don't know, I may consider swapping them valve seals at some point. You can do them with the heads on. Just have to pull the valve covers, which the driver's side looks easy. Passenger side's a little more difficult looking, but it really doesn't look terrible. So I may cross that bridge at some point. Right now I'm just trying to put a few miles on it and see how it's actually doing. And so far so good. So I'm gonna go ahead and change these fluids, and we'll go from there. So I got all the bolts out except for one, I hope. You can see the fuel tank makes it tough to get up in there. I got it all with a swivel ratchet wrench and a socket except for this one. And I kind of need a wrench for it, and I had to get out anyway, so I got a wrench. I've got a clean pan. Hopefully it's wide enough to catch it decent. It should have plenty of capacity, but anyway, see if we can get this popped off here. Seems to look okay up in there. It's hard to tell a lot, but the magnet's got plenty of clutch material on it, but that's probably going to be normal with this kind of mileage. I'm sure they're wearing a little anyway. So I'm going to get this cleaned up. Luckily it looks like most of the gasket maker stuck to the cover, which will make that much easier. Kind of quick and dirty, but I washed it in the parts washer, and then I had used some brake cleaner. Alright, we come back tomorrow, put the final torque on those, and fill it up with some fluid. Alright, I had some company and I didn't get any video of me finishing filling the rear end, but it would have been hard anyway because because there's not much room back there and there's not a lot to see anyway, so I got that filled up. So now we're going to drain this transfer case. And since my all-wheel drive's not working anyway, I'm just putting standard ATF in this thing for now. And if I decide to address later it not working, then I'll put the correct fluid back in it if I get it to that point. So, actually sounded like it had pressure, and I might need to check the drain. It shouldn't have pressure. Not the drain, the vent. Got my mind on this drain here. Yeah, that's pretty nasty looking. It'll be good to have it changed. Ooh, it's got a smell about it for sure. Been in there a little too long, I think. I think it's full. So I just use this Harbor Freight fluid pump. It works really good. It's made to go on a gallon jug. I've used it in quarts and everything else, but it doesn't thread in. It's a little more awkward to use in them, but works good in a gallon jug. It's a Jeep thing, you wouldn't understand. Anyway, that window has been messed up since I bought this, so I bought me a regulator on Amazon, like 48 bucks. So I'm gonna watch YouTube videos until I figure out enough to swap this out. I don't think it's very hard, but famous last words. Anyway, I'll tear into this and see if I can fix it. Okay, after about 10 minutes it's in. Just have to get it keyed in with the window. Those little pins right there go in where this clip is, and that should be it. So hopefully this will go together easily. It wasn't too bad. I just had to figure out how to maneuver it back through this hole to get it all in there together. So That's more better. All right, this thing's got a kind of a smell in it. I'm sure from just years of, being used, but it's my first time really cleaning carpets, probably. I mean, I've vacuumed plenty in my other vehicles, but these didn't look terribly dirty, but it just kind of smells. And I like to, sleep in it when I go camping or something, so I like for it to be pretty clean and maybe smell a little better. So I bought some stuff to wipe it down with, but I also made some carpet cleaner. There's the formula. Can't remember the guy on YouTube that I watched, but everybody said it was awesome. But I've not scrubbed a lot over here, but you can see the dirt just coming up. So this I've just now kind of sprayed down the other side too. I roughly vacuumed real quick beforehand. It's not going to be perfect. I just want to try to clean it up, make it smell better, and at least know that it's fairly clean. So I'm going to get to scrubbing. Just added a little more water after vacuuming it out. It's actually starting to stay a little cleaner, but you can still pull the dirt right to the low spot and vacuum it out. Seems to be working pretty good. I think the guys that, made this solution, I think he does this a lot, and he was basically just saying that you're wanting to flush it with water. Alrighty, y'all. As you can see, this thing smokes pretty good when you rev it up. When the engine's up to temperature, or when you start it after it's been sitting overnight, it'll puff a little. It's not terrible, but when it gets real, when you've driven it for a while, it gets to where it smokes pretty good sometimes. So I've got the valve seals right here. I've been kind of putting this job off, debating on whether or not I was going to do it at all. And I don't really want to do it, but if I'm gonna, drive this thing some, take it on some riding trips and things, it would be nice if it, wasn't doing that. And I don't mind so much putting oil in it as I do, I don't want it fouling the plugs. And I think the catalytic converter's already getting kind of stopped up because it has a code for the catalytic converter. And so if I fix the valve seals, I can deal with the catalytic converter then, but I won't have to worry about it fouling plugs anymore. And really, I've driven it a little bit. I mean, it's not losing any coolant. It does use oil, which we know why that is, but the air conditioner, I've got about 70 pounds of just air in it right now, and it's holding that fine so far. So I don't know if it's leaking around the compressor when it's running, or maybe it's not leaking. I feel like it's leaking somewhere because there was a can in the back, and when I got it there was nothing in it. I mean, it was empty. It wouldn't kick the compressor on or anything. But I pressurized it with air, and it is holding enough that it's been a few weeks, it's still holding enough to kick the compressor on. So unless it's leaking through the front of the compressor here when it's running, I think that's about all it could be. So anyway, I got to figure that out. I may end up just having to put some refrigerant in it, a couple cans, and see how long it works, or if it doesn't work or what. But for now, I'm going to get onto these valve seals. And the first, I'm going to do the driver's side first. It's going to be the easier of the two by quite a bit, probably. You can see that's the valve cover. I got good access. I'll get this air box out of the way, and I'll have to pull the plugs so that I can pressurize the cylinders once I get there. But for now, I'm going to get the valve cover off and blow it off a little, the dirt. I still need to change the oil on this thing. I'm going to wait until I get these valve seals done, and then I'll be ready to change the oil. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I got the air box out. That was a pretty big pain. It actually got nuts on the bottoms of the bolts, so I had to turn my wheel and pull the fender well back. I didn't want to have to jack it up and take the tire off and all that. Okay, I took the little intake box there off. Engine doesn't look too bad. It's not terrible sludged up or nothing for 200,000, so it doesn't look like a new one, but it's not bad. I don't see anything too bad. So anyway, I got the intake box off, and I got my coil out so I can get to my plug there. Pretty good, easy shot of that. And these two right here will be my first on number 1 or 2, whichever it is, I guess. These will be the first ones that I do. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that plug out and make sure I got an adapter that I can apply air to the cylinder, which will keep my valves up while I'm changing the seals, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I got my little rockers or roller followers, whatever you want to call them, popped out with a screwdriver. They literally just slide off. It's real easy. And then these are the hydraulic lash adjusters, as they call them. I got intake and exhaust on number 1 off. And so, don't be making fun of this. This is my tool I built to release my valve retainers, to be able to depress my springs and get the valve retainers out. I know it's pretty. You can see the nut floats. It kind of swivels, and then that U-bolt goes around the cam, not on the lobe, but on the the base part of the cam, and this is the handle. And don't ask me how I came up with this. I just looked at it and looked through my junk pile, and I've not used it yet, but I have test fitted it. So let me get a better light. All right, I hopefully have a little better lighting and spot with my camera. So you literally just push this over and you can see it just hooks on that part of the cam. So you slide it in, trying to do this one-handed, get it, you know, somewhat centered, and then just rotate it down and you can see my retainers are loose, and then when you let up on it, it just comes right back out. Now the other ones are on the other side, or the intake obviously are on the other side here, but you just spin this around. I know my lighting kind of went away, but it fits exactly the same there. And you just raise up on this handle. I'm not going to show this one because I don't have good light anyway, but I can do it one-handed, so I think it'll be pretty easy when I'm not holding the camera. Hopefully that works okay. And then I forgot to show it, but this is my compression gauge adapter, this hose down here. And I've clamped a little short piece of old fuel line I had laying around to it, and then adapted to just a regular air chuck fitting. I'm going to regulate my compressor around 50 psi or so, and that will hold the valves up while I'm actually doing the valve seals. All right, I'm going to put some air to it and we'll see if we can get this first one changed. Okay, let's see if we can get the old one off. Oh, it's loose. Alright, the first one's done. I know y'all couldn't see real well, but it went okay. I was having to hold that down and try to fight it. I think I've learned a couple things, so hopefully I can do a little better with the next one here. So I'm gonna continue on. So here's the old valve seal on the left versus the new one on the right. You can actually tell the difference in the hole size just looking at them. The black one here on the left is pretty wore out, and it slid right off of the valve, whereas the new one kind of got hung up on the ridges where the keepers go going down. You could tell it was a pretty good snug fit. So definitely was needed. Okie doke. Well, I just put the last two valve seals in on the driver's side here. I haven't put the other pieces back in just yet, but basically that's all of them on the driver's side, all 8 accounted for. They weren't bad, except for really the last cylinder. That was a booger. More than anything, not because stuff's in the way, but just because with my compressor you have to hold pressure on it. You can't just tighten it down and leave it. And so you got to use one hand for that, and then the other hand you have to put your keepers in, take them out. Taking them out's easy, pretty easy. Putting them in is not so easy if you can't hardly get to it, and you can't, you're also trying to put your head in a spot where you can see, and I've got another light jammed up in there that I don't have on right now, but it's tough getting everything in there where you can actually see and work and make it happen. But anyway, I'm gonna finish putting these back in, and I've got new valve cover gaskets. There's the old valve cover gasket. I've got new valve cover gaskets, and I got an air filter too. But so I'm gonna go ahead and fit one of these on the valve cover for this side. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. It's kind of nasty. I'm gonna put kind of a towel under the cam and wipe it off a little bit. I mean, it's just inevitable that you're gonna get some dirt and stuff in there. It's just how it goes sometimes. You can try to be clean, but you can't just get everything out of the way that's dirty. So anyway, I'm gonna get that back together on this side. I probably won't do the wiring harness yet, which it's easy anyway. I got the vacuum line off the booster, air box. I'll just leave all that out, and then I have to take the battery and a lot of things off. I don't know about a lot, but I have to take several things out of the way over there, and then I can hopefully get started on that side. I think I'll start in the back on that side so it gets easier as I come forward, hopefully. Okie doke. I know it's not done, but I'm calling it done. All I like is plugging in all the connections, get my wire harness situated. That should be no problem at all. Got new plugs in it, new valve cover gasket. All them little things were aggravating to get out, the old ones. I guess they were hardened up, and I found that if you heat them, basically almost catch them on fire, they come out real easy. So, but it does heat up that valve cover because it's aluminum. It gets hot pretty quick. But anyway, just a little tip. All right, y'all, got the battery out, got the TCM and bracket out, got the battery tray out, and the AC canister, and then the wiring harness I stuffed up there. It's kind of in the way of getting my plugs out, but I can maneuver it and put it where I need, put it, the harness kind of maneuver it out of the way so I can get my plugs out one at a time. Actually looks like I'm going to have more room over here after getting all that stuff out of the way. I got the heater core lines pinched off, and just they're rubber down here too, so you're kind of able to move them. And I'm very pleased with how much room it seems to have over here. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be a decent bit better than the other side, or at least not any worse, which was my main fear. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking we're going to be okay there. I feel like the booster took up more room than the PCM does. So anyway, I'm going to call it a night tonight, and tomorrow I'll start in on this one. I'm going to probably start in the back and work my way forward, so hopefully it starts out hard and gets easier. All 16 accounted for. Basically, just need to put everything back together now. The only thing I haven't done on the valves is put these rockers and hydraulic adjusters back in, but those take about a minute to pop in, so no problem there. Getting closer all the time. Got all this buttoned up last night. I took this off and cleaned it up inside and out. They get nasty inside because they condensate, and put a new seal on it. It was kind of nasty down here, so it was probably leaking some. I got my crankcase breather in, which really, that's why I did it with everything apart, because you can't hardly see it. I almost can't even find it. There's one over here. That's what they look like, threaded in. Threads into the top of the cylinder head. This is the one that I replaced. You can see it's kind of long and awkward, but they did have the foresight to put an Allen in here because they knew it was going to break off in the head. I mean, it's inevitable if you hit it or, you know, pull something around the wiring harness or something. It's about bound to snap off. There's too much leverage. Anyway, that came right out. It was really easy to get out. It wasn't very tight, and it does have that hex in it, so that was easy. I've got a power steering line here, the pressure line that comes out of the reservoir. You can tell it's wet, it's been leaking. It goes down and just makes a bend and comes back up. Not really even sure why it's shaped that way. And then it comes into the box right here. I'm going to replace it real quick, and then throw the air box back in. And I've got all my harnesses and everything plugged back in and back where they go, so I should be able to put my air box back in and fire this thing up and let it run a while and change the oil, and it should be good to go. Okay, well, that only took 10 or 15 minutes. Got my new power steering pressure hose on. It fit really good. It just came from Amazon. It was only like $12 or $13, but it goes in the steering box here, and then it goes down. You can see it goes down and comes back up and comes out of the pump there. But it fit good. Everything seems to be bent about how the other one was. Really good timing to do this right now. The air box, you know, takes up this area here even if you take the top off, so that gives you so much extra room, you know, to work. So really good timing to do that right now. Alright, everything's hooked back up. Looks like a mess with everything back in there, like it just be horrible, but it doesn't take that long to get, you know, things out. This air box is the biggest pain. You have to drop the fender liner at least a little bit, and that was, as far as getting things out of the way, I think that was one of the more aggravating things. But anyway, cooling's good. I may have to add a little after it draws some down. I put a little power steering fluid in it. The oil I didn't mess with. I'm gonna warm it up and change it either today or tomorrow. Got a brand new air filter back in the box. Got the new crankcase vent, all new valve seals, power steering hose. I don't know. I think that's about it. Spark plugs. So the lash adjusters are going to be pretty dry on this thing. I don't know how long it'll take them to pump back up, so it may peck for a little bit. But I'm going to give it a crank here and see what we got. for a second, but it's smoothing out pretty good. So after getting the valve seals done, I got everything buttoned back up on Friday, oil changed and all that. We left out that Saturday morning and went on a kind of a back roads ride. It was a local benefit type deal, and took a lot of back roads, and not a lot, but probably an hour and a half or so worth of gravel roads, and had a creek crossing, and kind of neat little thing. It was for a local benefit, but put 180 miles on it that day by the time we got back home, and it ran flawless, no smoke. And actually I checked the fuel mileage, and it got which this was all pretty much either 2-lane 55-mile-an-hour roads with some small towns, and then some gravel road running, but the thing got 20.3 miles to the gallon hand calculated, so I was impressed with that. The tires are actually slightly taller than factory, so that actually hurts your calculations a little bit, but anyway, I was definitely satisfied with that. For being the V8, I didn't really think it would get that kind of mileage. Still don't know what a good average around town is going to be, but I mean, I can handle that on a trip for sure. I've got, in a couple weeks coming up, I've got about a 3-day side-by-side ride, and my plan is to take this. It's about a 2-hour drive each way, so it'll be a 4-hour round trip pulling the Razor, and then I'm going to sleep in the back. I've been throwing around the idea of a roof rack. I'm not crazy about the way a lot of them look, but I'd been considering buying one from Harbor Freight when they went on sale, and but I've been watching Marketplace, and I wound up finding this one here. It's a Bouge RV roof rack. It's all aluminum, and it actually was in the box. Somebody had it listed for $50. It was in the box, and they only had a stock photo of it. They didn't have a picture of the actual rack. It was in the box in pieces with all the hardware, and I didn't know if it was, I assumed it was used, but it's been put together at one time, but I think if it was used, it was very little, and whoever put it back in the box put all the hardware back in its own separate bags and everything. So I was impressed with that. But this is a $230 or $39 cargo rack, or whatever you're gonna call it, and I ended up getting it for $40. And it's aluminum, which is kind of nice. It's rated for 150 pounds, which is what most of the steel ones are rated for. It's pretty light. It's, I think I saw the spec said 17 pounds. Came with real nice instructions, and got it put together last night. Dad was over and helped me stick it together, and so now I just got to put it on the roof and see how much I hate the way it looks. But I kind of want to be able to put a full-size spare tire on top if I want to, and then use the area where the donut is under the back floor for extra storage, and I'll be able to sleep right on top of it on the floor, but then underneath it, if I need to, I can just raise it up and get some stuff out. And also I've got a couple, toolboxes and stuff I could always throw on here for, camping trips or anything. So it might be kind of handy. But I'm going to stick it on there and we'll see what it looks like. Well, I told you it'd be kind of ugly. It isn't too bad. I'm not used to it. I don't like it too good yet. I'm not sure I can handle leaving it on there all the time. But it's not too bad to put on and take off, so it'll serve my purpose anyway. If we're going camping, I can use it and take it off if I don't want it. Or I might decide it's not so bad and just leave it. There it is with the full-size tire in it. I think it looks better with something in it than it does empty. If it was about 2 inches longer, I've got a pretty nice toolbox that I could strap on there with it. But even with the tire moved all the way up one way right now, it won't fit. So, I don't know. It may have to just only hold the tire, but we'll see. Alright y'all, so that's the end of part 2. In the next video, we'll be actually using this thing. I'll have some videos and some pictures of trips and things that I've taken in this Jeep, and you know, talk a little more about what I've done with it, and you know, just how I'm using it, and we'll see if it was worth the money, you know, and if it's worth your money to do something similar maybe. And you know, a lot of this stuff is interchangeable depending on the vehicle. You buy something 25 years old, you're gonna have some issues to work through, most likely, especially if you buy it for $1,000 and haul it home. But you know, anyway, so part 3 is going to be you know, using it, and so I appreciate y'all watching part 2, and stick around for part 3, and we'll take some trips.